For anyone who has had a period or knows someone who has a period, I don't know if you know this little secret that we all have a stash or had a stash of underwear that we just wore during our periods. Either they were bigger because, maybe we were bloated and they were more comfortable, or we were concerned about leaks, so we didn't want to wear, our fanciest underwear. Well, now there are companies, Thinx being the leader, that have created a whole new category of period underwear and have totally redefined what we mean when we say that.
So say goodbye to your granny panties or your huge tighty whities, if you will, and say hello to this brand new category of menstrual underwear. Rachel, I am so pleased that we are having the opportunity today to speak with Toni Brannagan. She is the lead content editor at Thinx, which is a truly iconic and groundbreaking brand of period menstrual underwear. So full transparency here, I am a huge fan of the Thinx brand of menstrual underwear. I also am a medical advisor to the company for all things period in the gynecologic realm. Welcome to the business of the V. Hello, friends and colleagues. I'm Dr. Alyssa Dweck.
And I'm Rachel Braun-Sherrill. Each week, we bring you the most fascinating investors, inventors, entrepreneurs, academics, and healthcare practitioners who are making things happen in women's sexual and reproductive health.
If you are a woman, know a woman, have a business, or care about your V health and wellness, fasten your seatbelts and listen in to another informative and inspiring episode. So welcome, Toni, and it's a pleasure to have you.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
I have to say, I'm so excited to speak to you. So when I was doing the research for the book that I wrote, one of the first interviews I did was with the founder of Thinx, and the book is really about the intersection of business growth and companies in this space. So it's nice to reconnect with Thinx in that way.
I thought first and foremost, it would be important for our audience to really understand the concept of menstrual underwear and Thinx in general and the technology. So can you tell us a little bit about the product and the demographics that you're trying to serve with it?
Yeah, of course. So Thinx is washable, reusable underwear that can absorb your period. Yes, it really works. It can completely replace tampons and pads, and it actually has the capacity, our most absorbent styles have the capacity to hold up to 5 tampons worth. But yeah, so every pair has signature built-in technology that's not just super absorbent, but moisture wicking.
Obviously, I've looked at the website. I see patients all day, every day, and people are very happy with the idea of menstrual underwear. And I think probably the technology is complex, but for the user, it's quite easy. Tell us a little bit about how the community manages that, ick factor of sitting in your menstruation. Does it wick everything away? Tell us a little bit about the user experience, if you could.
Yeah, so we definitely get a lot of questions about whether or not the product will feel gross. I can personally attest that it really doesn't. I love wearing them. They're so comfortable. They're really the nicest underwear I own. But yeah, because of the technology, there's a component that is odor wicking. That's odor controlling. So that alongside the moisture wicking component keeps, you feeling dry. It doesn't necessarily, the part that's closest to you doesn't feel wet.
Tell us about how you're educating the community about menstrual underwear, but also just about menstruation and women's health in general, because I know you have a big reach.
Yeah, so I manage our blog periodical, which is a bi-weekly publication about periods, but also vaginal health, reproductive health, a lot of different topics that basically people don't necessarily want to talk about. That's what we like to explore. Besides selling underwear, it's nice to give people this place where they can just really join our community and get to know our brand outside of using our products, especially if they haven't gotten a chance to use our products. It's nice for people to get to know us while they're, sort of thinking about it.
So I've been through the wars, as Thinx has, with the struggle to get access to media channels and get your message heard. And I know that this history is part of the history of Thinx, but also part of the fabric of the company. Share some background on the issue with the subway advertisements, and for people who talk about this stuff all day, explain to others why there's a problem talking about periods.
Yeah, so in 2015, we launched our first Subway campaign, which was initially rejected by the MTA. The ad featured grapefruits and egg yolks and other imagery to represent periods and vaginas. And basically, that campaign sort of like made Thinx itself so popular. I wasn't at the company at the time. I was actually in college in New York City. And I remember, riding the 6 up to school and just seeing those ads. And it honestly really inspired me to join this space, to really find, a career in something that could produce those types of ads.
And what was the result? I remember speaking to the founder back in the day that was one of the many, many times that the company went viral as you were growing. So the ad got rejected. And the fight to get it approved is that right? What brought the company to prominence and got it a fair amount of media attention?
Yeah, so it's definitely safe to say that people still aren't really comfortable talking about periods and having periods featured in advertising campaigns. It's really still something that we deal with today. Our most recent TV campaign was also rejected by a few networks for featuring stains on a couch. But that's just something that we're still going to continue to try to change the conversation around.
So with that in mind, you guys have been pretty groundbreaking in your advertising and bold in terms of your representation, the diversity of people represented, the diversity of backgrounds and body types. And I particularly enjoyed the ad that was done in 2019 about what would the world be like if men could menstruate, which really changes the discussion. I understand that you have some more TV ads planned for this year. What can people look forward to in terms of breakthrough, barrier breaking messages in your advertising?
I think it just all it all goes back to that people just aren't comfortable talking about periods yet. It's just a space that hasn't really had any innovation in a long time, and that's definitely something that Thinx has been working to correct. In terms of our ads this year, we've been making huge initiatives to educate people about our products, which might seem simple, but when it comes down to it, period underwear is still sort of something that people maybe don't know if they want to switch to. People usually learn about period care from their parents. They use what their mother used, whether that's pads or tampons, and making the switch to period underwear just requires a little bit extra education. Last year, we made over 500 online ads about product education, and we're just going to do even more this year.
Yeah, I see in my practice that it takes a little while for women to trust period underwear, because it's a newer concept, although not that new anymore. And I have seen people, really discuss that they double up. So they'll use menstrual underwear with a tampon or menstrual underwear and maybe a pad, especially if they're, have a heavy flow day. Do you intend for this to replace tampons and pads, or do you see it being used alongside, or just what's the goal?
Yeah, I mean, the intention behind Thinx is really to just provide more options for people with periods. So it really is whatever works for the user. We always like to say, get to know your flow. So you know what's best. Thinx itself can hold, our most absorbent styles hold up to 5 tampons worth, so they can completely replace disposable period products. I personally just use Thinx on my own, but they can really be used in tandem with cups. We hear a lot of people say that to cut down on plastic waste.
Of course. And, it's very interesting to see that there's also, a postpartum variety, because after all, these are women who are given instruction not to insert anything vaginally when they are immediately postpartum. And, let's face it, they're likely going to have bleeding for a couple of weeks. So it is surely that comes in handy. Are you able to speak at all to the other side of your product range, which is for, urine leakage? Is that something that you also write about?
Yeah, so we actually have a sister blog to periodical called Forward, which is where we talk about pelvic health and the topics about bladder leaks for our Speaks audience.
Yeah, because I think that if we think period talk is taboo, incontinence talk is like absolutely taboo. And really, people don't like speaking about that. So, are you finding it a lot harder to bring that subject to the forefront of readers' minds? Is that something that's even more difficult and challenging?
Yeah, so what we've actually found is that the people who use our Speaks underwear, which absorbs light to moderate bladder leaks, it's very similar technology to Thinx. They love our content. They're a very engaged audience. There is yeah, like as you said, periods are such a taboo subject, bladder leaks even more so.
Mhm.
There's such a lack of, uplifting, sort of kind-hearted content about those topics. And I think that our blog and its success really shows that people are looking to read about those things.
Thinx was, one of the first, if not the first, to create this category around period underwear. Now there are a number of other players in the game. What do you say differentiates or will continue to differentiate Thinx from new entrants into the category that this company essentially created?
Here's today's hot flash. So, what is a normal menstrual flow anyway? How much do women bleed? Newsflash, women bleed approximately 6 tablespoons of blood per cycle. That's 5 to 80 milliliters that leave your body as menstrual blood per month.
Yeah, so we're the leader in the period underwear space with over 70% of the market share, and we do see new competitors almost every day. But that is actually something we welcome because, like I said, like period underwear isn't necessarily something that people reach for. For the most part, people are still reaching for tampons and pads. And period underwear, I obviously love it, but we really just want people to see it as a viable option comparable to tampons and pads. And that's what we see competition as, like people, creating more awareness for our product as well.
And as part of creating the conversation or catalyzing the conversation, I've spent a lot of time in my work, focusing on creating a conversation and providing a vocabulary, which it sounds like you wrote a whole book about. So could you tell us a little bit about the Vagina Book, what it's about, other than the obvious implication of the title, and what the intent of it is?
Of course. So the Vagina Book came to be after our publisher Chronicle reached out to us to create this resource about periods, about vaginas, based on our existing content. So I had the opportunity to go through our blog and basically pick up our greatest hits and organize them into this excellent resource, if I do say so. We worked with some amazing folks. We partnered with an OBGYN, Dr. Jen Conti, who provided medical oversight and actually wrote her own articles because we wanted to include the perspective of a practicing OBGYN. We also got some amazing essays from some wonderful people like Latham Thomas and Roxanne Gay and Blair Mani, just really excellent people, just sharing stories that they probably aren't typically asked to share.
For people who don't know who those names are, who aren't living in the space, can you provide a little bit of context?
Oh, of course. They were really just folks that I actually respect myself, which was really exciting to get to work with them. Blair Mani is an activist, and Roxanne Gay is a prolific feminist writer, and Latham Thomas is a celebrity doula and activist in the space as well.
So if people want to learn more about not only the Thinx and Speaks products, but about the book and about education in the space of menstrual health, where can they get further information?
I would love to say check out our blog, not just because, of course, I write for our blog, but I also meticulously research all of our content alongside some of our amazing writers in-house and also a great team of freelance writers. Our content has medical oversight from an excellent panel of doctors. Dr. Dweck is one of those amazing doctors. That research is reflected in all of our content. We're never going to tell people what to do about their bodies. We're just here to educate. And I also link back to a lot of my sources and spend a lot of time sort of trying to contextualize maybe more scientific topics that people might not read the whole, people might not read the whole study, but I would like to provide a space where it's like a little bit more in layman's terms.
Well, little fun fact, and kudos to you, because in 2012 or so, I wrote a book called V is for Vagina, and I had a lot of trouble getting traction with it because people were so put off by the word vagina in the title that the media was very shy about the uptake. So kudos to you for getting the word out and using the proper anatomic terms for their appropriate places. And it's been a pleasure to have you.
Thanks so much. This has been great.
You're welcome. Don't forget, subscribe to our podcast at businessofthev.com for the latest trends and trendsetters in women's health and business.